Hey, my name is Ben Jaye, and welcome to the Creators Lounge podcast. On the podcast, I have a conversation with various creators in the music world about their art, their inspiration, and their process. I want you, the listener, to hear something of value and apply that knowledge to your own life or art. I do hope you enjoyed today's episode and the episodes yet to come, just as I enjoy creating them. Thank you so much for listening. All right, hello everybody. Welcome to the Creators Lounge podcast. I'm your host, Ben Jaye. Super excited about this episode. We're digging into a genre that a lot of you don't know, but I have been a fan of for quite some time. So let's get right into it. My man, what is your name? Where are you from? What do you do?
Cool, guys. Hey, what's up? I am Andante, real name Mirage Zamprioli. I am from Los Angeles, grew up here, and I do retrowave. Produce and make it all.
Retrowave is seriously good stuff, guys. And Andante, I'd like to start from the very beginning. When did you get into doing music production and songwriting, all of this kind of stuff?
Well, it's kind of crazy. I was an engineer. Well, I am an engineer, and that's what I went to school for. And that was about 12, 13 years ago when I started getting into that. But this record I just released is my first record. And I released an EP on the 27th of last month. I was literally just mixing and producing for other people. But yeah, about 13 years ago, I started to get into it.
Wow, that's super cool, man. So at first you were doing everything for everybody else, and now you're doing it for yourself. I'm really curious about that. When did the change happen? Like, what was the motivation to start doing it for yourself?
I mean, I guess I always wanted to, and then it's like you get scared. You go to school, you got to make money. Like, I'm married, I have a kid. It's like, how do I make this into a career? And it's very difficult all around. But I kind of chose the safe route. I was like, okay, I can be an engineer and I can work on people's things. I can do more. I can mix. And then I started to branch out, like, okay, I worked for a studio and was watching them get paid off, producing for people. And I was like, okay, forget the hourly wage because that's not really cutting it. And then I started to produce but that's a hard route too. Everything's kind of freelance. So I just got to the point where I'm like, I'm tired of making, music for other people. And it's like, I'm not trying to make music to make $1 million. I want to make music. And I've always wanted to make music. So I guess I kind of just rerouted the way I thought about it. And was like, you know what? And my wife was a big component of that. She's like, you know what? Just make the records you want to make. And I grew up in the 80s. And it's funny to see this retrowave style, but it's like, this is everything I've ever wanted to do. And when I would make tracks that I didn't release, it was all synth based. And I mean, you just go through the 80s and it's like, this was a great songwriting period. And it was a time where these synthesizers were being used first. So these sounds no one ever heard before. And it was analog and stuff was going to tape and all that. But I guess that's what I miss about like music these days. Music's amazing. Like there's so much music out there and it sounds great. But for me, I feel like the songwriting back then, like, man, those choruses and just the progressions and the sound of the synthesizers, like you listen to it now. I listen to nothing but 80s and I have been because I'm trying to, make that genre. But I listen probably 2-3 hours a day of 80s tracks. I have a playlist that's like about 15 hours long that I make and kind of alternate. And I just listen over and over because I was a kid when I heard this stuff and I didn't know how it was made. And now I hear it and I'm like, oh my God, I can hear a Juno on there, or I can hear like that 808 from the TR-08 or a 909. I'm like, oh my God, like that's when they were creating it, New Order and The Cure, and like, holy shit, that's what was happening. They were making it, and it's like that's what I try to capture with my record and everything I do now. And oddly enough, now these people are hitting me up and like, I can't find retrowave producers, and it's like, so I guess it might be in demand. So on a roundabout way, I've created a career path for myself, and I literally just made my Instagram like in May, and it's been going forward. And I think it's because I believe in it, and it's what I want to do. So,
Man, I can feel your passion, like you talking about it. You're just it's flowing, man, and it's really cool. And I think an important thing here is that retrowave, up until right now, anyway, it's kind of a niche market, you could say. It's not like not as big as some of the other genres out there. And the fact that you do it kind of makes you a specialist. So I think that's one of the things you have going for you. I was curious real quick because you talked about being an engineer for a long time. What's your situation right now? Are you doing music full time, or do you still have like a side job or something?
Yeah, so I still do the mixing, and I worked for Warner Brothers doing like mixing of promos and all that. So I still do mixing and I do production on that end. That kind of pays a lot of the bills. And then my record now has been kind of the focus, but I have to always step away when someone's gonna hire me. So I actually did my EP, and believe it or not, I have a 4-year-old, so I don't have a lot of time. As soon as he hit preschool, I did my EP start to finish. I do everything on it, every sound, every vocal, all the mixing, mastering. I did the whole thing in 3 months, 5 tracks, and it was like I just went, and it's like that's kind of where I'm at. I don't have a ton of time, so when I get in there, I've kind of really created a workflow, and it's taken years to get here, but boy, I do not waste time. I get in there and I got it mapped out, and it's creative. And I think because I have this direction for the first time, instead of like, oh, I'm trying to make a pop hit or a top 40 hit or trying to reference this or that, I'm making retro and I know what I'm making. And it's like I get in there and man, I songwrite. The song Pieces, that's kind of been the number one, most well received track on the album. I made that in literally one night, start to finish, and then I mixed it, mastered it for the next 3 days. I didn't sleep, and my wife and my son were out of town for a week, so I was like, let's get to it, let's make something happen. And that's been kind of the track that set it off. Like I didn't even plan on doing an EP. I did that track and everybody's like, holy smokes, like this is the genre we love the sound, the synths, all that. And I was like, okay, this is what I'm doing.
Mad respect, man, mad respect. And I can't even imagine. I'd love to hear the breakdown of your schedule and all of that. But let's go ahead and talk about Pieces for just a minute, and we can jump back to it in a second. But I heard that Pieces about like the loss of a father. Is that autobiographical or?
Oh yeah, this is my life. This is 1984. That's what the song starts off. I was fractured and left unwhole, and that's the day. That's the year I kind of realized my dad left my mom and my 2 sisters and I in downtown LA when I was 4 years old, or yeah, and he never came back. So that song is all about picking up the pieces and moving on, but literally is about what happened in my life. And it's very, like, the vocals are very sparse, but it's very, like, if the listeners want to listen to the track and kind of break it down. I've had people tell me, like, they love the beat. That's the first thing that attracts them. And they listen to it, and then as they listen to it, they're like, holy shit, this is sad. This is really sad. And that's the whole idea, is like, that's an old songwriting way, is like you create happy music, and that's like the sex of the relationship, and then the lyrics is like the actual meat and potatoes of the relationship. And that's what you get when you get someone interested first. And that's like, for me, it's got a groove, it's got to be beat. I come from like the new order age, and like those beats where like, man, you just listen to them, but they were talking about really heavy shit. And that's how I am. And like, I have another track called Alone in the Crowd, and it's just synthy and jammy and all that, but I'm talking about how disconnected everyone is, how we're in a crowd online all the time, but we're completely alone. And that's literally where we're going as, like, the human race is, we're so connected and disconnected because of how much we have available to us. And I think it's a balance. We all are online. Like the new iPhones have this setting where it'll tell you how much you're online. And I updated, and I was looking, I was like, holy shit, I don't have that much time to be on there. But I was like, wow, I just spent 4 hours today on social media. It's like, holy shit. We're spending tons of hours on this stuff. So I guess I'm trying to write music that people can relate to, but also at the same time, make them feel like, hey, I've heard this before, even though they haven't. But it's like, I know this makes me feel good. And then, oh, what are they talking about?
Deep, raw thoughts, man. Like, that's a lot right there. And you have, I can hear that you have a lot to say. You're really driven, you're really passionate. The music sounds great. All right, guys, time for a music break. This is Andante's song, Forbidden. Check it out.
She was an outcast, trying hard to find a way. He was the top dog, insecure in the way he lived. It was a new school, a chance to start over. And we met eye to eye, and the universe opened. All
I want to touch on the social media thing for just a second because you mentioned about just opening your Instagram in around May or March. So,
Yeah.
Are you looking to do more social media promotion or stay away from that?
You know, I'm cool with Instagram. I'm releasing the records off there, and you know, I don't know. I really don't know. At this point, I'm capturing an audience. I'm capturing a fan base, and like I don't know if I'm gonna be doing shows or any of that stuff. I'm not a young dude. I just turned 40, so yeah, I'm not a young dude at all.
Which is still young compared to like, 60 or 70. Yeah,
it is. But you know, I've got, it's crazy because, you know, 20 years ago, I've done a lot of different things, but music has always been like, this is something I just wanted to. I always knew how to sit down and play the piano, play the guitar. Like, it just came naturally. I went back to school and learned theory. I learned audio engineering at 28 years old because I just was like, man, stop like dicking around with this. This is what you want to do. And so I had to give up a lot to do that. But now I have, you know, a house. I've got a kid. I'm married. I can't just I can't go do shows, or I'm not living out of a pizza box. It's like I got a big nut every month. So it's now about like, it's not about making money, but it's like, I want to do what I want to do. And I think I don't know about going too far deep into like social media to get it out there. I feel like Instagram might be a good platform for me it always has been actually, to reach people. And if they support, which they have been, and can find a way to do this more, I'm good with that. Like, if people want to hear my music, and if they don't, I don't give a shit. I'm going to make it. So, it's like,
Yeah,
whatever.
dude.
You know, and that's the whole thing, is like, that's what I've learned. And I'm a big hip hop head too. I grew up in the 80s and 90s. And it's like, I grew up rapping. I just watched on Netflix the Hip Hop Evolution. New season came out. And if you want to watch, like, you want to know what it takes to like be successful, watch failure. Watch people fail. Because they all fail. They all are told it's not doing it from the people that make the decisions. And you watch these people that make the decisions every day go, wow, I made a big fucking mistake. That person was really talented. Just believe in yourself. Believe in yourself and don't give a fuck. I honestly don't give a fuck. You don't like my music? Cool. Don't listen to it. Don't download it. Don't stream it. And it's like, at the end of the day, I'm still making it because I have something to say, and I got to get it out. And that's the name of, I think that's really what you have to do if you want to be successful at. And being successful doesn't mean fame, because fame is really, people don't understand. Fame is not really something you want. You want normalcy. You want to be able to live your life and do what you love. You don't want that to be taken away. And I don't think people understand it. Like, we are such a fame, like, driven society, but nobody really knows what that entails. You lose everything. You lose every little bit that makes you a human being. And it's so much pressure. It's so hard to be a human being anyways. And now you've got it all out there. It's on the lens for everyone to view and rip you down. And it's like everything is published. Everybody can have their words published. And it's like, not everybody should be published. Like, not everything you think needs to be printed. There's a reason, and that's where we're at right now. And I feel like it's cool, but all in small doses. Like, I think we should take breaks, man. You should put that phone down and be like, I know this other guy, Millennial Falk, he's killer. He's a part of the retrowave kind of movement. Great producer, killer vocalist, and he takes weekends off. No internet, done. And I know that's easy to say. It is hard to do, but imagine just like 8:00 at night, and I try to do this. Like, it's hard, man. We've created it. It's an addiction, and it's literally in your brain. You can't, like, all the little gadgets on the phone, the way it lights up, the little, like, when you get a text message or you get notification, there's a reason why they are the way they are. They actually, spark your brain and release serotonin. And what does serotonin do? Well, that makes you feel good. What does cocaine do? Make you feel good. What does alcohol do? Make you feel good. So you are looking for that. Like, every time you think about your phone, is like, has somebody messaged me? Has somebody responded? And it's great, but you got to have a balance, because I know I got to the point when I started my Instagram where I was like, cracking out, like doing a post and just like every 6 seconds, like, did somebody say something? And then it's like,
living for the likes, man.
Yeah, exactly. We're all there. We're all doing it. So I guess now that I've been doing it a few months, I released my record and it was great. I'm like, you got it out. And now I'm like, you know what? Take a break, like, work on your music. Just find balance with all this. And I think that's the best thing we can do right now, or else we're gonna be in a sad state, very, very, like, disconnected human race. I know it might be a little too deep, but whatever.
No, dude, it's good stuff. It's really important that the audience can hear this and kind of, hear your perspective on it. And I mean, your opinion is echoed by a lot of other people from right now. I think the key thing to note on, like, the addiction aspect is that it's all business, right? So these companies, they want your money, they want your attention, they want that currency, so that's how it is. And like you said, you've really got to monitor it, watch yourself, because there's good sides to it as well. It's important to look at the bad sides. It's important to look at the good sides. I mean, for your example, you're able to put your music out through Instagram, and build an audience that way, as opposed to doing live shows or stuff like that, which is great. It's fantastic. And I think another thing that's interesting to look at here is that you're kind of looking, to step away from the internet so much as, like, your promotion platform, which a lot of artists are doing these days, not just for the avoiding social media thing, but also just because of the income factor. And so what's coming back is I've seen so many artists putting out literal cassette tapes. Like, they're selling their cassette tapes. They're selling
vinyl,
physical
T-shirts.
Yeah, exactly, man. Are you going to look into doing that for yourself and your career?
Funny you say that. I literally just, because my logo, signature design, out of UK, I found this guy. He did my logo, Andante. And for all you out there, my name it's actually my middle name. So my first name is Mirage. My middle name is Andante. My last name is Zamprioli. I'm half Italian. But Andante is a musical tempo. If people that know, most people probably, musicians, they know that. So anyways, that was my idea of creating a name was something that's part of me and also very musical. And Andante is like a steady kind of walk, kind of steady groove. And that's the whole idea behind my music, is it's this kind of like groovy, steady kind of groove to it. But anyways, I made a logo, or he made a logo. It's chrome. It's cool. You'll see it on the Instagram. But I'm just going to print up T-shirts, and I've been already thinking about that. Like, streaming is very unfortunate. It's very unfortunate because you're talking about artists that puts everything into something and you can't get $1 for a song. Now that's crazy to me. That's really crazy to me. Like, and it happened because, like, I was around when Napster happened. It happened because all these things, technology moves faster than the human beings that made it. So they couldn't even control it. It was a wild, wild west. And it's like the record companies just fell behind. So they didn't get anything. They didn't even know how to monetize it because it was not even controlled. So now we're at a place where you stream and you can get whatever you want, and the artist gets what, $14 for 1,000 streams. That's what it is. I might be, my facts could be off, but I mean, I'm looking.
No, you're right.
Yeah,
It's like 0.007 cents.
And I know they just passed a law, but to me, that's just sickening. It's like you get people to fall to fall in love with your music, and you can't even get $1 for a song that some people might take you 2-3 months to make a song. It takes so much to put yourself out there. So I guess that's the aspect I see. Like, you know what, people are trying to bypass it, and I don't blame them. Like, I want to release vinyl, definitely. And it's kind of cool that our genre is about old school. So people are digging, owning it. The Midnight are killing it right now. You know, they're on tour, they're selling tapes, they're selling vinyl, T-shirts, because you have to. I mean, if you want to make a living at it, get stuff in TV. I've been fortunate. I've done a lot of, like, MTV is one of my biggest clients as far as I do instrumentals for MTV. But you know, they pay what they pay, which is not a ton, but I've had a lot of placements. That's kind of kept me afloat too. I forgot to mention that one, as far as like paying the bills. I had a lot of song placements, but as far as selling your records, if you're doing it all yourself, you don't need to sell 1 million records to make a living. Like, you could, what's wrong with making $60,000 a year as a musician? That's awesome. I think, to me, that's awesome. You're doing what you love, and you're getting a regular pay. Like, that's the aspect I think people don't see. They don't see the middle of it. And I think that's what these artists are doing. I love it, is that they're making a living. Like in the 50s and 40s and 30s, when jazz musicians would tour around, they made a living. You know, you didn't know them that well. They weren't millionaires. They made a living, and they did what they loved. And I think that's where I'm at with it. And I think if anyone is really passionate about their music and just they want to do it, to make a living, it will be an honor to make a living at what you do, you know, instead of, I want to be famous and I want to be a millionaire. And that has nothing to do with music. It has nothing to do with anything but your ego. So that's my opinion.
Andante out here preaching, man. He's preaching out here. And it's like you said, man, previously, that's kind of the line between fame and success, right? Like, people are kind of told that they should be famous. They're told they should be superstars. You should make $1 million. It's not the reality, and very few people can achieve that. It's more important to look at your personal success. What is success for you? What are you doing to achieve it? You know,
to get it.
Yeah. You know, putting in that work.
We lost a lot when, you know, unfortunately, people became famous for nothing, because then you saw kids, like, they're like, cool, I want to be famous for nothing. So on Instagram, you got people, and in YouTube, you got them making 6 figures for nothing. For what are they doing? And it's like, okay, you can say, hey, this guy's a hater. You know, he's hating on, like, people. No, I'm not hating on them. That's cool. They're making a living. But what they're doing, they've created a culture of people that don't want to work hard, don't want to get better at their craft, don't want to learn about the people that came before them, don't want to learn about art and what it is and what it means, and to educate themselves. They just want to get paid. And yeah, we suffer for that as a culture, as a human race. We suffer because the kids don't know shit. They don't know shit. And it's like, and you have to, like, every day I learn. Every day I'm humbled. I'm like, what do I need to learn? I mean, music, producing it, engineering it, like these fucking websites. Oh, we'll master your stuff, you know, and just a click of a button. What the fuck is that? And to me, if you use it, cool, you use it. It burns me up, because there's people that spent 20 years mastering records, and they would take that time to listen to your record and what it needs sonically. And it's like, just to throw that shit under a button and be like, I spent 2 months working on this track and mixing it, and we recorded it, and it was our vision. It's like, yeah, just click a button and master my shit. Oh my God, that burns me up. Like, it's just respect to the art, you know? It's just like painting a painting that took you forever, and then say, fuck it, let's just take a picture of it and put it on Instagram.
Right,
you know?
man, I feel you. And it's all, stuff is changing so much. I mean, on every single layer, it's changing. I don't even know, you know, how it's going to work out, but I feel like stuff will even out eventually. You know, it takes time, definitely. I feel like we're in like a transitional period right now. So it's really, what I see is the people who are taking the initiative upon themselves to kind of stay true to what they do, like you're talking about, staying true to the art, putting in the work, and then also the people who are like really being dedicated and like understanding what's going on. Like you said, it's so easy to be fooled by illusions of like, oh, this person did it overnight, or this person did nothing, I can do it too. It's very, very rarely true. It's very rarely true. It's those people are putting in work that we can't see, or those people are, have something that we don't have, and that's what made them popular or successful or whatever. So.
100%. I think there's a saying that I heard, I think it was like 2 years ago or something. And it was it's a small little saying. It just says, don't compare people's outsides to your insides. And I was like, that's perfect. That's literally what's happening. You look, all we do is we see people's outside. I guarantee 10 out of 10 people you pull off of Instagram, like your friends, say your friends, right? Me, I have friends. And then on Instagram, everything is great. Who's posting that they lost their job, or the girlfriend left them, boyfriend left them, or that they're not eating, they're anorexic, they have a drug? Who's posting that? I mean, I don't know. I don't see too much of that. So we post the best, or even not the best, what we want to be the best of what's happening to us. And I guarantee you take those 10 friends and you meet them in a room one by one, they're going to tell you a different reality. And it's happened to me. I meet a friend I haven't talked to in like a year. I'm like, hey, man, what's going on? It seems like everything's going great. How's that? Yeah, this sucks, and this happened here, and man, this shit's falling apart. And it's like, oh, cool. Instagram looks like everything's like going well. Yeah, all right. I didn't know you lost your house, but cool. You keep posting pictures about it.
Yeah.
Right, that's what I'm saying is like, I think you're right. We will transition away because it's still new, and it's just technology is moving so really fast. But I think we will find a balance where people, and it comes with kids. Like I have a 4-year-old. And my kid, he's outside. He doesn't want to be inside. And luckily, he's that way. But we also try to, limit that stuff. He's learning right now. He's developing right now. Their kids are just going to see what we do, and they do it, man. It's nuts, like a shadow. So if I'm sitting here all day on the computer or whatever, like that's something I think that you have to do. You have to change it, but that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah, let's get into it. Let's get into it a little bit because, like, I love how you're very driven. You're very intelligent. All this stuff. Do you think that came from like your upbringing, like from your mom, or do you think it was something you developed over the years?
No, yeah, that's a great question. So, this is what happened to me. And my story could have gone 2 different ways. Dad left. It was my mom and my 2 sisters and I. We were living downtown Alvarado Street. And if you guys don't know LA, that area in the 80s was bad. And my mom busted her ass and she got us out there, and we moved to Silver Lake into an apartment, and everything was great. We didn't have a lot though. I'm talking, there was times where literally like I'd look in the cupboard and there would be like some dry pudding to eat that we got from the church. And I'm not kidding. And I would make that whole bowl of pudding and eat it. Potatoes and pudding. And I'm not kidding. And my mom met my stepfather, and he was older. My mom was like 44 at the time, and my stepdad was 67. But he was from the old school. He worked his ass off. He was a tool and die man. And I'm talking about work ethic. He worked like 80 hours a week. He was born in 1924. It's like, talk about a blue collar worker. I mean, so I was getting crazy. I was like 11, 12 years old. I was chasing my sisters around with knives, breaking down doors with hammers, fighting in school. I got friends that were like, I was literally on the verge of either, in LA at that time, I was going to either join a gang, and I'm not even kidding, or end up in jail for vandalism or theft or something. It was just out of control. I was skateboarding out 10, 11 o'clock at night as 11-year-old. My mom met my stepdad, and this man just literally unconditionally loved me. I fought with him, physically fought with him, fist fights, everything, and he just loved me and loved me and loved me. And he showed me what a man does, or a woman, or anybody, a human being does. But a boy needs a father figure. It could come in different forms. They need someone to show them how to be a decent human being. And he did. And it took years, and I'm not going to lie, man. I've done my share of stuff, like a lot. I mean, I've smoked the herb, lots of it.
Man.
Yeah, smoked a lot of it.
I mean, with your environment, of course, yeah.
Like I done, and that definitely set me back. But I always got back to like trying to do good for him and like respect what he did for me. He passed away last year at 93, and
Wow.
and I just want to like I let him know on his deathbed like what he did. You know, even though he wasn't that coherent the last couple years, he didn't really get to see my son too much. But I just wanted to let him know like look at what I've become because of you. And then on that note, a kid I grew up with in the same complex is on death row. You know, and it's like that was the difference. I'm not saying I'd be on death row.
The contrast, man. The contrast.
Same
there,
environment. Yeah. My friend had a single mother, him and his sister. We same exact environment, and they came. The lawyer came in to ask me about his upbringing because they're trying to appeal his sentencing. And she was like, what is the difference? Why is he there? And I said, I don't know. But the biggest difference for me is this man that came into my life and showed me how to work hard and to respect people. And it's like, that's something I'm instilling in my son. Like, it's please and thank you. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Like, those things go a long way. Respect human beings, everybody that you come into contact with. Be grateful for what you have in your life. And it's hard. I have gratitudine tattooed on my arm, which is gratitude in Italian, to remind me of like, I have a lot in my life, but it's easy for all of us to wake up and be like, I don't have this, I don't have that. This is not happening the way I want it. And it's like, if you can just stay in gratitude, it's hard to do. It's really hard to do. Your days will be better and your life will be better.
Chills, man. I got chills. That's raw right there. That's really good stuff. There's a quote I know, and it says that we all get to choose how we grow from pain, and it's either we become hardened by it or we understand like the suffering and we can help others through that. I think that just
100%
fits with your story right there, man. And
awesome.
I'm curious now because like you came up from this rough upbringing, and you had your struggles, you had to fight through it all. Do you feel like you were able to reflect that through your music well?
Man, anyone's listening, listen to Pieces. And listen to the emotion in that song, because I literally cried as I made it. I cried because it's been years. This song was about my birth father that left, because I cried myself to sleep for 2 years as a 4-year-old, 5-year-old, not knowing why your father's not coming home. I look at my son now. If I were to leave my son right now, man, it would shatter him. Not only in the now, every decision he would make from here on would be trying to fill that void. And that's what I did. Mine was through anger. Boy, I had a temper. A scrawny little half Italian kid in school. And it's like, I never picked fights with anybody, but I'm not lying to you. I've been in over probably 100 fist fights because I will not be picked on. And I don't take a moment to figure out why somebody's picking on me. I would just start throwing punches, so that's how I dealt with all the pain that I had. And I'm 40 years old, and my wife, she's been the biggest advocate of like my temper. Like I've not done anything crazy in years, many years. But it's been hard to get a hold of it. Like I had to meet with my father in 2008, my birth father, and try to find some closure, and I did, and ends up he's just a horrible alcoholic, and it was a blessing. He was a blessing because I found out like he was literally beating my mom and all kinds of shit, and it's like,
wow, man,
he left, and that was the best thing that could ever happen. As a kid, you don't know, but thank God he wasn't around. But seeing him, I was 30 years old, and seeing him, and I looked right at him, and I'm not kidding you, I was just acting like nothing was happening, and my sister and I was there. My sister couldn't even talk. She was catatonic. And we were there for a couple of days in Philly visiting him, and we were drinking, and we were just acting like nothing happened. I had some wine, and I looked at him, and I swear I just saw 2 horns on top of his head.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And I was like, this guy's evil. He was just a piece of shit. He was mean. And I was like, and I'm old enough now, and I was a big guy. I'm bigger than him. I could have knocked him out. I could have literally just knocked him out. And I just looked at him, and I was like, you know what? Your payback is just life.
Right.
And honestly, I don't think you're capable of anything else. You can't take things personal. Like, there's a great book called The 4 Agreements, and one of them is these 4 things you try to do in your life. And it's like, One thing is to not take things personal. It's very hard to do that. If you can do that every day, I mean, you're ahead of the game. It's so hard to not take things personal.
It's a practice, man. It's a practice.
Oh, it's a practice. Exactly. Everything becomes about us. They did this. Why? Because of this. It's like, it's really hard. But yeah, that that kind of helped me.
Your story, man.
Yeah, helped me with like raising my son and just being, a better person. So.
Which is super incredible, and I just have so much respect for you, man, hearing all this stuff. I want to ask one more question before we wrap this topic up.
Sure.
Because I know that a lot of people who listen to that will probably struggle with only having like one parent around, or even no parents around.
Right.
What kind of advice would you give for them on how to have that stability in themselves whenever they don't have like a mother figure or father figure around?
Just reach out to your friends. Reach out to your community, like as far as you could find a figure, mother or father, through people. Family is just a word. Doesn't have to be your blood. And that's what I realized, because my family's crazy and most people's families is crazy. But I find that as you get older, the people in your life might not be your family. They might be people that are just around you and care for you more than your family does. So that's, I guess, my advice is if you're like in a place where you feel like you don't have that support, just reach out to people. Tell your story to people, and you'll find that there's a lot of people that will embrace you, love you for who you are. Just don't get caught up in it. It has to be your family. I don't have my mother's love. My mother's crazy too. I won't get into that. But I didn't talk to my mother for about 6-7 years. My mom's out of her mind. I got an old mentor of mine told me and there's a little piece of advice. Find older people. I'm talking older people that have lived and experienced, and just sit with them. I spent 2 years with this man. He was 7 years old. I worked with him in real estate, like as an apprentice. And, he was amazing. I just listened to his stories. And it's like, we have so much in other cultures, the elderly are put up on a pedestal. In this culture, we just throw them aside, and it's real, injustice. Find some person that you can relate to, older, that has seen a lot of years, and I guarantee you will learn a lot.
Dude, it's so true. It's so true. Two of my closest friends are like 10, 15 years older than me, and it's awesome because I can learn from it. And there's really not, like you said, I can connect with them as well. It's not awkward when we hang out. And one more thing I thought was interesting is, like you said, I mean, a lot of it comes back to sharing your story and being educated. I'm not even that old. I'm 23 right now.
Oh, wow.
And I'll talk to people online, and like they're like, "Oh, I struggle with depression and anxiety." I'm like, "Well, here's what helped me. Here's how I overcame that." And they're like, "How do you know this?" And I'm like, "I just did some research,
right. Yeah, you got to ask questions.
You got to ask questions.
It's okay to ask questions. And just at that age, you're beyond your years, because at 23, I knew everything. And it's like, so good for you that to the biggest thing is to just know that you don't know. But you can't tell people in their 20s that. I mean, I tell you, I thought you were older because you definitely hold yourself and talk.
I appreciate that, man.
Yeah. So, age is nothing but a number. That's a cliche, but it's true. Just, seek out the knowledge, and you will definitely find some reprieve.
That's really what it's about, man. It's about the education. It's about the knowledge that you're putting in your ears, that you're listening to, that you're growing from, And of course, the personal responsibility as well, like putting the initiative on yourself to make that progress.
Yeah, for sure.
One of Andante's most powerful songs. This one is called Pieces. It's a must listen.
I was fractured and left on hold. Father, where have you gone? I'm just alone. Leave my heart on the run. These streets are calling me, and without you, I just can't see. These streets are calling me, and without you, I try to. tried to.
Let's jump back real quick, and I want to look at your inspirations for back in the '80s. Let's reminisce about the '80s, man. What were the artists you liked to listen to back then?
Oh man, so '80s, I was listening. Back then, there was something called a radio station, and it was
Which not
FM
everyone
and
will be
PM.
familiar with.
It was an FM and there was an AM, and it was something called K-Day back in the day. And this was on AM, and it was where all the hip hop was nothing. Nobody knew what it was. What is this? So they put it on AM, and I used to listen to that as a kid, 8 years old. And you had Tone Loc and Beastie Boys, Ice-T. You had all the stuff coming out in New York where it all started. And it's like we were just blown away as kids. And I started breakdancing, and we were doing it out here. And then it's like my mom, big Van Morrison, Talking Heads, of course, Beatles, Everly Brothers. Like I've had a big array of music around me my whole life. So I listened to all that coming up. And then it's like, yeah, you get into like The Cure, New Order, Flock of Seagulls. It's like the Smiths, the Joy Division before New Order. We were just listening to it at the time, and it was like, wow, man, this is incredible. As a kid, the Romantics. As a kid, I just listened to it, and I knew my mom was always like, wow, this kid really knows music, because I had a good taste. Back then you had to make a tape, and what you did is you put it in the machine, the tape, the ghetto box or whatever, and it put it on the radio station. You press record and pause, and you had to wait until your song came on. So you usually caught a little bit of the DJ in the beginning and the end, and you would make your mixtape. And so all these little images you're seeing people make, that's what we used to do. And I got to tell you, it was awesome. So you'd make this hissed out analog radio DJ ridden like tape, and you wrote on it, and that was yours. And you make a dub and pass it to people, and you would make mixes. And it's like it was a cool time, man.
The worst thing, because actually, believe it or not, I did do that a few times as a kid. The worst was like when the DJ would talk over the song, and like it kind of messed up the flow between them.
Man, they would talk 30 seconds into it, so you get like a minute and a half of your song, and you're like, dang,
right?
You didn't have money to go buy a CD back then. They didn't have a CD, but tapes. It was $15.99 for a tape. I think one of my first tapes was NWA, and I had to steal it because it was explicit, and my mom wouldn't let me have it. And I remember I was playing in the room, and it was just like, fuck the police. and my mom was like, what's going on? And he was like, and I was like, oh man, and she took it, confiscated it.
Probably horrible at the time, but it's a good memory looking back.
Oh yeah, it was all happening, man. It was electric, man. It was electric back then. I mean, you just felt it. It was just so much culture, and like, but it was poverty ridden too. It was, 80s was a time of like crack cocaine came around, and it's like I was right in the city. So, but as far as music and culture and movies, you kidding me? We weren't talking about movies. Like this stuff was amazing.
Movies is a whole other topic, but yeah, I would love to dig into that.
Yeah, but it's funny. Man. It's funny now because like the stuff that's coming back, Stranger Things. Where do you think Stranger Things comes from? Like where do you think all this stuff is coming? It's definitely because it was a golden era, it was a Renaissance period. And people might say, well, what the hell is he talking? You can't say that. Well, I did. It really was. It really was. For music, art, fashion, the fashion's back, the music, it's all come back because, it really 10 years wasn't enough for it. And then you got 90s was great too. So that's a whole nother topic.
Truly, man, truly. They really made their impact on culture and society. And I mean, it's just because like we've seen it come back, so many times. I think like the bringing back skinny jeans was like in the late 2000s, and then even now we have like the retro sounds and stuff. I feel like it just keeps coming back because it's such a golden era for us all.
Well, it's limitless, and it's like I mean, even like when I went and bought analog gear again. It's been a while, but I went and bought Juno, bought a Prophet. I'm running half analog and of course digital because that's how you edit. Back then it was a lot more difficult. Now we have such an ease of like editing and we have limitless amount of takes and all that stuff. But I try to record straight through on some tracks, like try to find that, because that's what happened back then. Like they had to, they literally like you got going to tape machine. It's like you had to play through or you had to cut the tape and put it back. So it just made them more creative, like they had to be. And I think we have so many options that we've kind of gotten stale in some aspect. There's a lot of great art and music happening right now. I think it's kind of getting back to that where it's like, hey, you still have to be innovative. Even though we've had these tools for a while, like how can we make this creative? How can we do it a different way? Because that's when they first got these tools, it was all new. And you could do what you were literally creating the sound. Like in those years, like synthesizers, Giorgio Moroder, like Donna Summer's producer, that guy was doing everything in the 80s. And people might not know him. You might know him, the younger generation, from Daft Punk's record. They got the record in 2013. They have a track with him on there. He's the master synthesizers. He created a sound in the 80s that you hear on Scarface. He did the score for that. Never Ending Story, score for that. Like all these movies. And it's like people were literally creating sound. And so I guess that's what I try to do. Like start from scratch. I make patches. I mean, and I love the fact that I found this community on Instagram of people that are making sounds, creating retro, because it's still there to be created, like presets and all that. Like
even if you're doing it digitally, it's still there to be created.
Either way, yeah. I mean,
sound design is so important.
So yeah, any way you find to do it, because I know like making analog is very difficult. But yeah, the emulations are incredible. I think the plugin that's the UVU. They have like some old, like 4 of the old 80s. It's like $200. 4 of the old keyboards, the Yamaha DX7, all this stuff that was 80s and 90s keyboards, and it sounds killer, man. I definitely use that on my records because it's easy. You got MIDI coming in right away, but also you hear the harmonics. You're like, wow, they've done an amazing job with that. That's the thing with the analog is like, if you mess up, you mess up.
No, yeah, and you mentioned a minute ago about how they try to do stuff in like one take when they were doing recordings. That beauty in the imperfection also was kind of an art form in itself, and I love how nowadays sometimes some of those...
It's too perfect.
Yes, well, yeah, that, but also I love that I was going to say that I love how sometimes resurfacing we'll see like Elvis song take 22 or, Van Halen song take 5, and it sounds so good. It's very different from what actually got put out or released.
Yeah, I mean, it's all organic. I mean, that's what music is. I've fallen into that trap where I've tried to make everything perfect to the grid, boom, boom, and that's music I've made a couple years ago was very flat. Now that I get to this point where I trust myself, I'm like, you know what? That doesn't need to be perfect. Like, there's a beauty in the swing. We want to sound like a human being. We don't want to sound like a computer. EDM's a little different because you have to create your ebb and flow through different kind of polyrhythms. You got that 4 on the floor, but as far as like just making music in general, you want some organic, humanistic feel to it. That was the beauty of the old school analog machines. People I don't think understand that the digital stuff is perfect. It's perfect. The circuitry on the analog stuff has swing to it, and it just does. And there's no way to dispute that. You put on a TR-808 drum machine or an SP-1200, there's a swing going on in there that's a human. And that's why all those hip-hop records sounded amazing back in the 90s, because you hit something on there, you do a little 16th triplet swing, and man, you are grooving. I mean, that's just got the head nod swing to it. So I guess it's all about finding that in the digital realm too,
Right, man, right. Yeah, it's very, very true, dude. I love the organic feel that you're talking about here. And I think it relates back to your point about social media, how a lot of us like to only promote like the good things, you know, and the positive images instead of like showing a more realistic, more balanced thing, you know. I guess it's just human nature, always seeking perfection, you know, and looking for perfection, not being accepting enough or self-aware of like who we are as people and, you know, what we've achieved and what we want to achieve. We're always looking to be better than the Joneses, you know, or to have this perfect life or whatever, but it's just not the way it always is, and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I 100% agree with that.
All right, so I want to look at something real quick. A lot of artists struggle with like self-criticism and not feeling good enough about their music. Have you ever dealt with this before?
Oh my God, are you kidding me? Every day of my life. Like my wife has been the first person to like get me out of it. It's been so debilitating that I wouldn't even release records. That's why I didn't do my own stuff. Like I started out as a songwriter back in 2008, and I made about 10 songs and started going out around LA. And I did a show, and a bunch of people showed up, and everyone gave me praise, and then I never did a show again.
Wow.
Yeah, and I never did it again. And I was just like, for me, I never wanted to be on stage, but I don't know what that was. I think it was just fear, and it's stupid because, believe it or not, like when I was in my 20s, I was an actor. I did commercials and all that stuff. And I got there and got some work, and I had no problem getting out there. But with music, I just felt like I'm not good enough. Like I'm not good enough. I've never been good enough. My music's not good enough. I wouldn't pass it to the A&R or something. I'm just not ready. I'm not ready. 10 years goes by and you're still saying I'm not ready. It's like, dude, shut the fuck up, or don't do it. And that's what I pretty much, my wife had to kept telling me, like, she's like, I'm sick of you with this bipolar attitude. That's like, one day you're like made the best song that's ever been created on the planet, and then the next day the same song is just a piece of shit. And it's like, yeah, that's what's going on in my brain. So this is the first time, like I said, I guess because I took the pressure off myself. I'm not trying to make money with it, because that totally derailed me. That derailed me in 2008 when I was like, I gotta make a living. I don't want to do side jobs. I gotta do this. That's the wrong reason, and I'll tell you, it won't work out. It won't. It translates through the music. It's desperation, and that's what happened to me. And then, when my wife got pregnant, I didn't make music for 3 years because, shit, if anyone out there has a kid, you know what I'm talking about. It's fucking hard. It is so hard. It's like, for me to make this record, I could only work from the hours of 9 to 3, because when he's here, man, he'll put a freaking broom handle through my monitor. I can't work. He's 4 years old. He's a little freaking monkey jumping around. Like, I can't work on shit. Man. Yeah, it's like, I can't edit. Are you kidding me? He's just like, so like, I couldn't work for 3 years. And it's like, I guess that's what happened. I took 3 years off, and I was getting really, like, I was in a bad place, because my wife's like, you're depressed. Like, and I wasn't depressed per se. I was down. I was not creative. I wasn't getting it out. And
struggling a bit.
Yeah, I was just like, and she's like, you gotta make music. And I go, I know I do. And she's like, just be patient. He's gonna be in school soon. And soon as he went to school, man, it felt like I just took a hit off a crack pipe. I was like, oh yeah, that's what I've been missing. Oh shit. And then that's kind of fueled me to here. That was 6 months ago. Oddly enough, I released a song called It's Your Move with this girl Staz. And she was a singer for me, because I never wanted to sing. I never wanted to do any of that stuff. And then I was like, we got a record label to release it. And then I was like, they want, an EP. And she's like, I don't want to do it. And I was like, what am I going to fucking do? I don't have a singer. So that catapulted me into, like, I'm done relying on people. I'm done trying to get people. I don't have a lot of time. I was like, fuck it. You know what? I'm going to sing. Like, I always hated my voice, but people are like, you got a good voice. But that's another thing. I feel like my voice is horrible. But people say, that's your voice. And I go, you know what? That's the point I've been missing. It's my voice. I'm not fucking Christina Aguilera. I'm like, this is my voice. And a lot of singers, Neil Young, listen to him. That's his voice. It's not about being the best. It's about just being yourself and having your voice and like believing in it. So when I found the retro like style, I'm like, now cool. You know what? Because vocoders rock.
Right.
I was like, and that's what I like to do.
Confidence
I was like,
booster
I
right
can
there.
do. Yeah, I was like, and it's not about auto-tune and all that stuff. I can keep a key. It's not even about that. It's about my words, my lyrics, and the placement of the melody. And I'm like, cool, that's what people are getting. They're not judging me on, in 2008, I did a record. It was like 10 songs, and it was very like whatever. And it was called Andante, Moving Slowly. And I made it on Logic, and the production was cool, but the mixing, it was all whatever. But it was 10 songs. I did them. And everything was auto-tune. And like the people I presented to was like, this is not going to last. You shouldn't do auto-tune on your voice. And I wanted to be like, fuck, I wish I could fast forward to 2018 when it's more. Back then, you couldn't even do the hard tune. People weren't doing the hard tune. They were just mad that you were tuning at all. And I was like, dude, they started tuning in the 70s and 80s or when autotune came around back then. People were throwing their vocals through the keyboard. And, like back then, it's like, it's not about that. But yeah, they shot me down. And I like kind of gave up on me being doing the vocals because I was like, oh, they're right. Like, I can't sing and I shouldn't be doing that. And that's what, I guess, to circle back, like, don't fucking listen to anybody. Fuck them all. Honestly, just keep doing your shit. Just keep doing it. You'll get better. I mean, you'll get better and you'll become a better artist. The way they win is when you quit. They won.
Yeah, dude. And I mean, like, the thing is, they literally don't matter. Like, fast forward, like, you're dead. Who's there? They're not there,
Yeah.
All you have is your memories and what you did, with your life. Only your opinion matters, literally.
It's your world, man.
It's your world.
It's our world. Yeah. Every day you wake up, you can choose to be happy or you can choose to be sad. I'm not saying that might be a little too general. You might have a lot of shit going on. Oh, and I should say I'll say this better because that's a little stupid. I apologize for that. All you can do for that day is your best. You can do your best.
Yep.
All right. I don't want to get people like, fuck that, man. I just had this happen.
But I mean, like,
balance. And
perspective. It's perspective, I think, is the thing here. And that's what I've noticed through your whole story is that throughout your whole life, you've always had really good perspective. I mean, you struggled there, like, when you were a teenager or whatever, but then, like, you got your perspective back. And, like, the thing I've noticed about you that sets you apart is that your perspective is just really informed and it's just very well-rounded, I think, from your experience, but also, like, you yourself, the work you've done on yourself and what you've created. And so you have better perspective than a lot of
I appreciate
people,
that.
That's one of your winning points right there. So real quick, wrap up on that whole self-criticism, not feeling good enough. Is there any like practices that people can do, to get better? Obviously, like you said, just ignore everybody. But is there any like practical things they can do to build that confidence?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what you do. Like say you're an artist. Well, get out there and perform. Like if you want to be an artist, just get out there and keep doing it because you'll just get better. You'll get better. And it's the old 10,000 hours thing. I mean, you just can't think that you're going to put in, a year or whatever. You're going to put in X amount of time and it's going to just happen. You got to realize for yourself, what are you waiting for to happen? Like you're going to miss the whole journey. That's what happened to me. Waiting for these big paychecks, but all of a sudden you're making all these little paychecks along the way and you're doing nothing with them. You got to just find out what you want. And if you don't know, just keep searching. Educate yourself. That's the biggest thing. Get out, know that you need to learn that, and then take that. Like that was why I mentioned that documentary, Hip Hop Evolution, Wu-Tang Clan, Tribe Called Quest, De La Soul, Queen Latifah, all of them, like Biggie Smalls, Tupac. He had a manager and they shopped him around and they said, nope, no one's interested. Everybody on that documentary was shut down and they came back hotter, harder, better, and they just worked on it. I mean, like you're gonna get shot down. If you're gonna try to pursue a dream, you're gonna fail in every avenue. Bill Gates, it's like they all failed. They all did, but they took the failure and said, what do we need to do to improve? And that's what I've learned is how to operate in the realm of fear. And that's been the biggest thing for me. How do you do it? When you're scared as shit and you're like, I can't go on. And you'll see yourself peel back some skin and you're like, wow, I just really grew. You're not going to grow if everything's great. And that's what happens to people that blow up really fast. All of a sudden they're in the position where it's light years moving around them and they're not growing. Everyone's telling them they're the best that's ever been created. And they stop learning, they stop growing, and it's like they become casualties. It's because it's a process. The universe is a process. It's about stages. Nothing, you can't skip steps. It doesn't allow you to. It doesn't allow you to. Everything is moving in a certain pull. And that's just how I feel. I connect to all of it. It's like, you can't take shortcuts. You can. It's going to drop you off somewhere else. It's going to be like being John Malkovich.
Yeah, man. There's a quote I heard the other day that I feel is relevant. It said, progression is the key to happiness. And I feel like that's kind of what we're talking about. You know.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure.
It's all about the practice, man. Taking those action steps and growing every single day.
You know, I heard another one too, and it made perfect sense because people go, practice makes perfect. And they say that. Practice makes perfect. It's not true. Perfect practice makes perfect. If you're practicing like shit, well, how are you going to be perfect? Like, you gotta treat that practice as like it's everything. You know, it's repetition. But that was one thing when I heard, I'm like, God, that does make sense. Like, that's the detail within the actual saying. It's like, you can practice horribly. Practice your piano scales half-assedly and see how you play the piano. You know, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, it's the same way for all of those old like sayings and proverbs. You know, like, they're halfway true, but there's like a big half that they're missing, you know, and so you can't just take it at face value. There's so much more that goes into it.
Just make it personal. I think if you make anything personal and you believe in it, and then that's all there is to it. You know, man. That's all there is to it. Yeah,
that's true. I want to ask you this final question, and then we do like a speed round. But first, I want to wrap this up by asking, what's the impact you want to make as an artist and with your music?
You know, if I could get just people to feel, you know, like really take a moment, like when they hear my music, I want them to actually feel it, like in the world they're living in. No matter what's happening, if my music can take them out of that, and they can really have a moment to where their mind is being taken somewhere else and have a lyrical point to it. I do write love songs too, so you know, if you're in love or whatever, I mean, that's great. But I want my music to touch people. And people say that a lot, but like, if it helps one person, then I think I've done my job, because I'm sharing stories I had, and I think all this great music comes from trials and tribulations. I mean, it really does. It really does. That's what shapes us as a society, is like the struggle. You know, people learn from it and they grow. So if I could just touch people, that's the main objective.
Fantastic, man. Best of luck. Keep doing what you're doing, because I think you really are touching people and will continue to do so as you do it more. Okay, with the guests that come on, we always have one last section. It's like a spitfire round. I ask a question, you give a quick response, and it just kind of goes like that. Are you ready?
I am.
All right, let's go. What is your favorite food?
Tacos.
What is your favorite weekend activity?
Sleeping.
What is your favorite color?
Blue.
What countries do you want to visit?
Italy and Spain.
Favorite movie?
Breakfast Club.
And what languages do you speak?
Spanish and English.
All right, man, we're set. Guys, this is with Andante. He does retrowave. He does synthwave. He is just an incredible human being. He's got drive. He's got devotion. He's got passion. And he's got really great music.
He's got a mortgage too. No, I'm just kidding.
That's making the final cut. Andante, thank you so much for coming on today, man.
Oh, my pleasure.
Any last words for the audience or anything like that?
Mad love to everyone out there. I appreciate the whole community. Respect to you. I was from the beginning of my account, you and I have been kind of going back and forth, and you give me nothing but praise. And all you guys out there that have sent a comment or whatever, it really does fuel me, man. It makes me feel great, and I'm glad to do what I do. So much love to all you, and new singles coming out pretty soon. So a lot of music coming, guys.
All right, guys, make sure to stay tuned and plugged into his career. I'll give you guys links to his stuff, and I will talk to you next week. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.
I'm coming by to scoop up as a baby. Just hold right there. Forget about your worries and your cares. I'm throwing caution to the wind. Is this how it began? 'Cause baby, we're more than just friends. I said, lady, we're more than just friends. Now won't you take a ride with me down the street? Come on, baby, get in. We're going up the coast tonight. Everything will be just fine once we get the sand beneath our toes and the ocean when you know. Let's take a drive on Sunset Strip. Hold you underneath the blue, you're my baby. No, I won't let go, lady. No, I won't let go. Rolling in the sand, you tightly grip my hand as the water slowly comes in. I know we oughta slow down, but I can't. Now won't you take a ride with me down the street? Come on, baby, get in. We're going up the coast tonight. Everything will be just fine once we get set beneath our toes and the ocean when you know. Baby, let's take a drive on Sunset Strip. Under the sunset rim, sail this way. Everything will be alright. Take to the side, I'll be by your side. Baby, let's take a ride. Baby, let's take a drive on Sunset Strip. Under the sunset rim, sail this way. Everything will be alright. Take to the side, I'll be by your side. Baby, let's take a ride. Take a ride with me down the strip. Come on, baby, get in. We're going up the coast tonight. Baby, let's take a ride. The sand beneath our toes and the ocean when you know.